Good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being, and sustainable development 2024, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 76 years of independence, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030, as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences, and Wellbeing. So before we start our sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue with today's commemorations. Today is commemorated as World Football Day on 25th May every year. The transformative power of football sports have been instrumental in promoting peace globally and have played a pivotal role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Football, as a prominent global sport, holds a unique position beyond mere recreation. It is a universal language spoken by people of all ages, transcending national, cultural, and socio-economic boundaries. This shared passion fosters a sense of community and national pride. Football's broad appeal and accessibility make it a potent tool for promoting health and well-being. It has also served as a vital platform for advancing gender equality and empowering women and girls, both on and off the field. Moreover, football serves as a catalyst for social inclusion, fostering unity and breaking down barriers between the diverse communities. It provides a space where individuals from various backgrounds converge to promote mutual understanding and tolerance, respect, and solidarity. Inaugurated in 2022, Football for the Goals, in short known as FFTG, set out to engage with football stakeholders and major actors to harness football extensive reach and global impact in advancing sustainability, equality, human rights, and climate action. By promoting actions and practices that support achieving sustainable development goals. So, when we look at the background, 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of the first international football tournament history in the representation of all regions, which took place on May 25, 1924. So, during the Summer Olympic Games held in Paris, in recognition of this milestone, on May 7, 2024, the General Assembly passed Resolution 78 by 281 proclaiming May 25th as the World Football Day. So the resolution acknowledged the global reach of football and its impact in various spheres, including commerce, peace, and diplomacy, and recognizing that football creates a space for cooperation. It also recognizes the fundamental role of Federation International de Football Association, FIFA in short, and the important role of regional and national soccer federations as well as relevant associations in promoting the game of football. The resolution encourages all countries to support football and other sports as a tool to promote peace, development, and empowerment of women and girls. It also encourages countries to adopt policies and programs to promote football and other sports and physical activities. It invites all member states, organizations of the UN system, international organizations, academia, civil society, and the private sector to observe World Football Day in line with national priorities and to disseminate the advantages of football for all, including through educational and public awareness raising activities. Sports for development and peace, as sports possess a unique capacity to unite people, transcending identity backgrounds, ethnicities, and abilities. Throughout history, it has made significant contributions to the well being of the individual, communities, and peace. Recognizing this, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development highlights the increasing impact of sport in achieving both development and peace objectives. The ancient Greek tradition of ekcheria or Olympic truce was born in 8th century BC, serving as a hallowed principle of the Olympic Games. In 1992, the International Olympic Committee renewed this tradition by calling upon all nations to observe the truce. The Olympic movement aspires to contribute to a peaceful future for humankind. Through the educational value of sport, it brings together athletes from all parts of the world in greatest of international sports events, the Olympic Games, and it aims to promote the maintenance of peace, mutual understanding, and goodwill. Goals it shares with the United Nations. Let's watch a short video.
napenda nikiweza kujionyesha uwezo wangu kwa wale ambao wananiangalia, kujisikia kuwa maarufu kama mimi, yani kwenye uwanja wote ndio mimi ndio nacheza kuliko wote. Tazamia nikuwe player mkubwa, chezee timu kubwa kama timu ya taifa.
Jamani, homework ya gumu
amefanya kama mkubwa na mtazamo wa kuwasaidia wazazi wangu, na pia footballer kama itanitoa pia itaniwezesha kuwasaidia wazazi wangu, na hivyo pia nitasaidia. Mzazi sasa anakulisha, naye unatakiwa siku moja ukuja umlishe.
Kusikia kwamba mtoto wake ni mtegemevu wa hiyo timu, walimu na makocha pia wakimtegemea, inawezekana tu siku moja Mungu ambahatishe ainue familia.
Tulikuja 2008 hapo Kakuma, na wakimbizi wako ndani ya Kakuma ni zaidi ya 250,000 kutoka nchi mbalimbali, kabila mbalimbali. Mchezo wanaopenda ni kandanda. Hizo timu ziko zaidi ya 100.
Mimi nilikuwa nachezea namba 6. Ananizidi kidogo, ako chap ye. Akiingia kati, unaona watu wazima mara nyingine wanamgomba kwa mguu wa mangusho kwa sababu anawaibisha sana. Lakini apendagi kucheza na watoto, anacheza na watu wazima wanaweza kumzaa, na mpaka sasa hivi wanavyoendelea. Pia na sisi tumefurahia, tumeona tu kama mbeleni upo usoni, inawezekana aweze kuinua haki.
Nikiwa kanjani nakuwa naharakisha akili yangu kufikiria, yani kupeleka mtu, kumrudisha, yani kumchatia machogo, yani kufanyia mastaili. Watu wengi sana wanakuwa wananipa sifa mbalimbali, wewe unajua kucheza. Tangu hapo nilianza kujihimiza sana kufanya zoezi, nikaanza kujikaza katika zoezi mpaka sasa. Timu yetu tuna shida kama vile mpira, tuna shida pia ya viatu, hatuna konza kufanyia mazoezi, lakini tunakuwa tunafanya mazoezi kiufupi, na tufanye mazoezi vizuri. Sana najiambia niendelee kufanya bidii katika mazoezi, niendelee kutia bidii. Kakuma ni sehemu ambayo iko sawa tu, haina mambo ya vita, haina mambo, yani kumetulia tu. Nikifanikiwa kwanza nitoke Kakuma kwenda sehemu zingine, sehemu za mbali, tamisi vitu vingi sana. Kila mtu anakuwa na ndoto zake, wengine anataka kuwa wakuwe maplayer watoke hapa ende mbali, wengine anataka kuwa wasanii, wengine lakini sema tu hawapati nafasi ya kuonesha vipaji vao, yani talenti yao, anakuwa vipaji vao vinajificha kwa ndani. Cha kwanza, ukiwatch football una ile nyingi tosha, kwa sababu unavyomwangalia vile mtu, na wewe pia unavyozidi kufanya bidii utakuwa kama yule mtu ambaye unataka kumfikia. Mimi ningependa kuwa kama Sadio Mane kwa sababu ako na experience kwanza ile ya kucheza mpira, ako na nguvu, pia anajiamini kucheza mpira.
So Football for the Goals is an United Nations initiative that provides a platform for the global football community to engage and advocate for the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. It is an opportunity to build on football's powerful and influential reach and to work together to become agents of change by aligning messages, messaging strategies, and operations with the aspiration of the SDGs. The initiative will inspire and guide the world of football from confederations, national associations, leagues, and clubs to players, associations, organized fan groups, as well as media and commercial partners to build an existing sustainable approaches and to implement SDG strategies that lead to behavioral change. Members may not aspire to develop sustainable practices, but may also act as champions of the SDGs during the decade of action, that is 2020 to 2030. Members will use their visibility and outreach power via tournaments, players, corporate brand exposure, media, and fan communities to raise the profile of the SDGs through amplification and advocacy. They will inspire action by demonstrating how these sustainable practices can be mainstreamed through any business model, including sports. So members of the Football for the Goals commit to the following principles across their business practices and their advocacy with stakeholders as well as media and commercial partners and sponsors. Sustainability policies and practices, implementing and advocating for the SDGs, a human rights-based approach, including in addressing issue of discrimination and avoiding discriminatory practices, equality and equity, including gender, climate action, So let's watch a short video on about Football for the Goals to understand what exactly it is.
Ms. Melissa Fleming, and I am the United Nations Undersecretary General for Global Communications. I am proud to be here for today's launch of the United Nations initiative, Football for the Goals. Football for the Goals will mobilize the global football community around achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, by 2030. It will tap into the power of football to champion the SDGs and also drive behavioral change and sustainable practices in the football industry. It is no coincidence that we're launching the Football for the Goals on the first day of the 2022 UEFA Women's Euro Tournament. Gender equality and women's empowerment is at the heart of the SDGs. We invite all those in the football community to join us. At the UN, we're very pleased to kick off Football for the Goals with UEFA, coming in as our inaugural member. It is my privilege to be joined today by United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed.
Great to be with you.
And UEFA President Alexander Ceferin. Nice to see you both.
Hello.
Welcome. My first question goes to you, Deputy Secretary General. Not everyone in the world of football is familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. Can you tell us a little bit about what they are and why they're so important for the world?
Thank you, Melissa, and it's great to see you, President, over there for football. Look, Football for the Global Goals, 15 years was what we put in a time frame to try to make promises to over 7 billion people that their lives would be one with dignity, that we would try to eradicate poverty, basic rights to health and education, a good economy, climate change. These were 17 clear promises that were made in 2015. Important because everyone matters, and a big message for them was to leave no one behind. And to now, 8 years on, to get the goals, we feel a sense of urgency. There are many crises around. Still, the framing of the SDGs that matters so much for everyone, women, for children, for youth, is one that we want to pursue. And so those 17 goals are important for us, and this is an amazing opportunity to put that on the map in a place where you touch hearts and minds using the platform of football.
What would the world look like if those 17 goals were implemented?
Well, much more peaceful, that's for sure. And we would not have these extreme climate events where people do not know what is around the corner tomorrow in an extreme flood or desert storm or many of the natural disasters that we see. We would see more equality. We would see women in leadership, but also equal pay. We would see children that wouldn't have to think outside of a family, but are an integral part with nutrition, with education. So all the basic rights that we would hope that a world would have for its people, and that they would live in harmony with their home, the planet, that's what we would see with 2015. I think it would be fun. We could get on with the business of striving for our aspirations, doing so living without fear, doing so without the thought that around the corner may be another crisis and conflict. So these, I think, would be taken off the radar, would be gone with that fear from so many things, and one where we could look to prospering.
President Ceferin, it is really a privilege again to have UEFA join the UN's Football for the Goals as its inaugural member. We know that UEFA created its own sustainability strategy. It's called Strength Through Unity. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, what is your motivation for joining this initiative?
Thank you. First of all, I'm pleased that the United Nations recognizes the powerful voice that football carries in the global community. And of course, the role we can play in raising awareness of the sustainable development goals through the game's popularity, it's huge. And UEFA, as you said, inaugural member of Football for the Goals movement, aspires to take a leading role as an exponent for change in sports by contributing to the promotion of sustainable development. And of course, also introducing more sustainable business and operating models to the football industry, to our industry. And I'm convinced that if football comes together and bundles its power to drive sustainable change, it will be able to have a strong and long-lasting positive impact. And as UEFA, I'm sure we must set the right example towards sustainable change because we inspire others to follow.
That's inspiring, and that unity is indeed exactly what we need. And what is your reaction to what he just said, and how do you think football can inspire people to start implementing these goals in a meaningful way?
It's the one game that will bring the CEO of the, the wealthiest organization to the poorest person in a village together, without thinking about what language or what politics or anything that they have. It just brings you together in a manner that nothing else can. And I think this world is so in need of coming together for dignity, on solidarity, respect. I mean, just the basic elements of our humanity is what we need to see, and football does that in such an amazing way. And so I'm really pleased that we're part of this. These are global goals. We have 17 that we need to kick through the posts by 2030, and I hope that we can do that. Now, in some cases, we're going to have to dribble this a little and find the pathway there. But many of the things that you come to understand about football are also about life. They're also about what is intrinsic to human interaction, that with our environment. You can talk about the football pitch, and if you don't know it well and you don't take care of it, then you're not going to play football very well. But you've also got to talk about the well-being of the people who are part of this. And it goes, beyond just the footballer. It goes to the whole paraphernalia of ensuring that that person can perform. And that's what it's about, is governments and stakeholders and all of what we have in our world. How do we ensure that that one human being gets the dignity and the respect and the rights to thrive, and that's survive and thrive. And that's what I think is great. This is very exciting.
Yeah, indeed. I think we have an incredible tournament in front of us, and bringing, as you said, and as the Deputy Secretary General just said, people of all walks of life together. It is a sport that is played in refugee camps and on dusty fields with just a ball needed. And I think everybody who is kicking that ball aspires to one day perhaps compete. But how could you see that this tournament could perhaps, how can you integrate the Sustainable Development Goals in the work that you're doing?
The women's football is finally enjoying the attention and popularity it deserves. And I think this Euro will take the women's game to exciting new heights. A record-breaking ticket sales, for example. It will be a fantastic atmosphere. Nine splendid venues, including the opening match in Old Trafford and the final at Wembley, both sold out in a day. 100,000 people at Wembley. Now, speaking from the perspective discussed tonight, we will ensure this will be a fully inclusive event. It will be delivered following the highest standards of event delivery, of course, considering human rights and environmental aspects. And the areas that are in focus include, first, fighting discrimination with a focus on online abuse, which is a big problem these days, providing access to low mobility spectators, ensuring safe and healthy stadiums, and ensuring human rights are respected throughout the procurement value chain. This is also very important and not usual. On the environmental aspect, the focus will be on energy efficiency, waste management, and surplus food. At the same time, UEFA will measure the CO2 emissions of all the event, compensating for unavoidable emissions. So I think it's quite an interesting approach to the tournament.
I think as a woman, that's really inspiring to hear. How about you?
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, women's football has come of its time, and if you can say in an hour that the tickets are gone. That's amazing. But I think what is even more special is that you're really looking at the business model. You're looking at the ecosystem. And everyone's footprint matters, and what are we doing to mitigate the worst parts of that while still enjoying the game and having everyone involved. And I think this is where we start speaking to the green jobs, we start speaking to the transitions that are possible. If you can do it in football, why can you not apply that to so many other businesses? And again, back to the 3 points that you picked up there, and most especially when we talk about food, when we talk about waste, when we really speak to the energy, it's a really important part of what we need to change the way that we do business on.
Excellent. Well, I think we're all really looking forward to this amazing Women's Euro. And thank you so much, President Ceferin. It's really been a true pleasure to speak to you, and of course, as always, to the Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, who has from the very outset been the leading champion for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you and all the best. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you very much. Look forward to kicking
very much.
SDG 5 with you at the Women's Tournament.
Thank you, and all the best to both of you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
to justify in humanitarian, economic, social, and cultural terms.
This colonial system was imposed by force on many peoples of many races and religions.
And we are continuing to try and solve the problems with the methods that are available to us.
Join us in our efforts to eradicate colonialism in all its forms and manifestations from the face of the earth.
Ushered in a new era of hope and great optimism.
Since its founding, the United Nations has been engaged in decolonization processes around the globe. And that work continues today, as 17 non-self-governing territories remain. The United Nations will continue to assist, but all should play their role. The administering powers, non-self-governing territories, member states, and the Special Committee on Decolonization.
When the UN was formed at the end of World War II, 72 non-self-governing territories and 11 trust territories were identified as under the control of administering authorities. In 1994, Palau, the last remaining trust territory, gained independence, but as of 2020, 17 NSGTs yet remain. Today, the majority are islands in the Caribbean and Pacific. The United Nations remains steadfast in its efforts to end colonialism around the world. Let's take a look at a quick history of the United Nations and decolonization. Chapter 11 of the founding charter of the UN addresses the issue of non-self-governing territories directly. It highlights the responsibilities of the administering powers to promote the well-being of the inhabitants of the territories and to develop their self-government. It also obliges administering powers to give information about their territories to the Secretary General. This is reflected in annual working papers prepared by the Decolonization Unit in the Department of Political and Peace-Building Affairs. Beginning in the 1960s, the General Assembly's resolve to support decolonization strengthened even further. A series of resolutions were passed that sought to assist the peoples of the territories to achieve self-determination according to their particular circumstances. The first, Resolution 1514, has come to be known as the Declaration on Decolonization. Further resolutions identify the ways in which peoples of these territories can achieve self-government. They include becoming a sovereign and independent state, free association with an independent state, integration into an independent state, or the emergence of any other political status freely determined by the people. The Special Committee on Decolonization is commonly referred to as the C24 because of its original composition of 24 member states. As a subsidiary organ of the UN General Assembly, the C24 is devoted to monitoring and making recommendations regarding NSGTs. Today, the C24 holds regional seminars on decolonization in either the Pacific or Caribbean every May. And for 2 weeks in June, they hold a substantive session in New York to examine the situations in the territories in depth and the issue of decolonization in general. These meetings allow the C24 to hear views of the NSGTs, the administering powers, and other stakeholders and petitioners on the decolonization process. The recommendations that come out of the substantive session of the C24 are submitted to the Fourth Committee of the General Assembly, which in turn considers the recommendations and submits draft resolutions and decisions to the General Assembly plenary for adoption at the end of the year. Additionally, institutional support for NSGTs from UN entities, specialized agencies, and international organizations associated with the UN is important and kept under consideration by the C24 and the UN Economic and Social Council. With the consent of the administering power, the C-24 can dispatch a visiting mission to observe conditions on the ground and gather first-hand information. These visiting missions enhance the capacity of the United Nations to assist the peoples of the non-self-governing territories. Recognized as an important tool, the General Assembly has requested that the C-24 undertake at least one visiting mission per year. As an example, in 2019, at the territory's request, the C-24 sent a visiting mission to Montserrat, still recovering from a devastating series of volcanic eruptions that began in 1995. The visiting mission held meetings with key members of the government, representatives from civil society, and other stakeholders. In this way, the C-24 is able to report on the needs of the territories. When the United Nations was established, 750 million people, nearly one-third of the world's population at that time, lived in territories that were dependent on colonial powers. As of 2020, nearly 2 million people continue to live in non-self-governing territories, the majority of which are on small islands that face the added challenges of sea level rise and increasingly destructive natural disasters. While major strides have taken place, decolonization continues to be a priority for the United Nations. Through determination, perseverance, pragmatism, and continued cooperation and coordination, the United Nations is committed to the complete eradication of colonialism once and for all.
Today, we are also commemorating International Week of the Solidarity with Peoples of Non-Self-Governing Territories, which is from May 25th to 31st, 2024. The UN commemorates International Week of Solidarity with Peoples of Non-Self-Governing Territories annually from May 25 to May 31. So the UN describes a non-self-governing territory as a territory whose people have not yet gained a complete degree or self-government. This day aims to request the administrative powers to protect and respect the rights of the peoples in these territories to their natural resources and their property rights. Currently, there are 17 non-self-governing territories left in the world. So in 1946, 8 member states, Denmark, Australia, France, Belgium, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and the United States, identified 72 non-self-governing territories under their authority. However, 8 became independent before 1951. From 1960 to 2022, 54 territories attained self-government. The transmission of information concerning the non-self-governing territories under Article 73 of the UN Charter encourages administering powers to make known the political interest and the will of the people in those territories. For various reasons, the administering power transmission of information to 21 non-self So the transmission of information concerning the non-self-governing territories under Article 73 of the UN Charter encourages administering powers to make known the political interests and the will of people in those territories. For various reasons, the administrating powers transmission of information to 21 non-self-governing territories was halted. The UN General Assembly allowed the termination of information in some circumstances, such as in Greenland, Alaska, and Hawaii. In other countries, the administering power choose to do so unilaterally. So in 1963, the UN General Assembly approved a new list of 64 territories to which decolonization declaration of 1960 applied. The list included the 2 surviving trust territories at that time, which were trust territory of the Pacific Islands and Nauru, the non-self-governing territories for which information was given under Chapter 11 of the UN Charter, such as the territories governed by Spain and Namibia, then known as Southwest Africa, and the non-self-governing territories regarding which no information had been communicated, but which the UN General Assembly has decided to be non-self-governing, especially the territories administered by the UN, now Zimbabwe. In 1965, the list was updated to add Oman and French Somaliland. Now it is known as Djibouti. New Caledonia and the Comoro Islands were also added in 1972 and 19. So in 1963, the UN General Assembly approved a new list of 64 territories to which Decolonization Declaration of 1960 applied. The list included the 2 surviving trust territories at that time, which were trust territory of the Pacific Islands and now the non-self-covering territories for which information was given under Chapter 11 of the UN Charter, such as territories governed by Spain and Namibia, then known as Southwest Africa, and the non-self-governing territories, which no information has been communicated, but which the UN General Assembly has decided to be non-self-governing, especially the territories administered by the UN, now Zimbabwe. In 1965, the list was updated to add Oman and French Somaliland, now Djibouti. New Caledonia and the Comoro Islands were also added in 1972 and 1986 respectively. There are currently 17 non-sovereign countries remaining. The UN General Assembly requested the yearly commemoration of International Solidarity Week with the peoples of non-self-governing territories. In its resolution 54 by 91 on December 6, 1990. So many UN member states recognize several territories under their jurisdiction that are non-self-governing and add them to a UN list. In 1946, the UN General Assembly adopts a resolution on voluntary information transmission about the development of self-governing institutions in non-self-governing territories. So the UN General Assembly adopts the resolution to annually observe International Week of Solidarity with the peoples of non-self-governing territories. The international community celebrates the first International Week of Solidarity with the peoples of non-self-governing territories on May 25, 2000. So there are 17 countries included in the UN list: Western Sahara, Anguilla, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Falkland Islands, Malvinas, Montserrat, Saint Helena, Turks and Caicos Islands, United States Virgin Islands, Gibraltar, American Samoa, French Polynesia, Guam, New Caledonia, Pitcairn, and Tokyo. So as per the UN data, less than 2 million people still live under colonial rule in these territories. So the department's electoral assistant division can provide mechanical advice on a referendum to decide on the future status of territory or to observe the referendum process should such a request come from administering power and people of territory. So many people are not aware of the fact that such a week exists. Spread awareness about it so more people know about how the UN is handling the non-self-governing territories of the world. Use social media to let people know it, create support the week in solidarity with the peoples of non-self-governing territories. One of the major reasons for the decline in the number of non-self-governing territories is the end of colonization, which is a good thing that is happening. Colonization has been going on in the world for a long time, and although it does not prevail anymore, numerous territories remain under colonial rule. Teach young kids about its huge ripple effects in the world. So one of the major reasons for the decline in number of non-self-governing territories is, though end of colonization, still we see the effects and impacts are still evident, even those who have become independent countries. Even just take an example of India, which has been colonized for 200 years, under British colony. Still we see after 76 years of independence, still we have many things that British has created and left. Even after leaving also, we are still following those laws, acts, rules, and certain practices which are left by them. Just imagine a country like us is still under such great, huge impact. Imagine what would happen to the small countries and many underdeveloping countries or underdeveloped countries where they have very limited resources or limited knowledge, limited technology, limited literacy rate. You can imagine. That's why it is very important to teach the youth, especially young kids and children, about its huge ripple effect in the world, how they have been enslaved and, literally they were abused and tortured, exploited in all terms, and how it has been creating a huge impact at a personal level, psychological, emotional, social, economical, and various levels, including literacy. And still we see even many countries, even first generations could also are not able to get the benefits. And there are still the unreached. So the effects doesn't go so easily. Because, generations together, decades together, centuries together, being colonized, imagine 20, 30 generations, or imagine 10 generations, 20 generations under the impact. You will completely forget who you are. A complete identity is lost. And there are a lot of changes that keeps coming in. The complete identity is lost, creating new identity, or adapting false identity, or adapting changed identity, and a lot more. So you have to be aware, and you also have to make others aware, especially children, because they should not do the same mistake again. So that's why we have to learn from the history. Otherwise, there is a greater chance that history gets repeated, and we have to go through the same thing again and again. So take action while observing the rights of the people in non-self-governing territories. We should be cognizant of the rights of that people are deprived of in other parts of the world. After learning about the deprivation and violation of basic rights and freedoms, people still face daily act on the ways you could try to help find against systemic issues. It was so horrible. Even fundamental human rights are also violated. And no country is left. All the colonized countries have seen their darkest days in the entire history of their nations under colonialism. So that's why self-governing nations are the only solution to end this colonization. there is a huge number of territories. In 1946, there were 72 non-self-governing territories in the world, and 17 still remain today. In 1972, Hong Kong and Macau were removed from the UN list at the request of China. See, China influenced the status of smaller territories. And it's a different kind of colonization again, you know. Now, China is claiming them as part of them. So earlier they were under different rule. Now again, they are still not self, you know, though they claim themselves to be a self-governing territories. But again, they are turning into, they are being threatened, or they are under threat of again non-self-governing nation, because being under China now, they will be ruled over by China. So there is a constant struggle to be independent. But again, things are changing. See, forms are changing. We need to understand, though there is colonization that is happening even today, but in different forms, not in the same form. Although Bermuda considers itself autonomous, it has been on the UN list of non-self-governing territories since 1946. See, even Hong Kong, Macau, and Bermuda, still a lot of places are there. The United Kingdom administers 9 territories across North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Oceania. Still, even now also, there are still countries which are administered by United Kingdom. You can imagine, even still, the impacts remain evident. Although Puerto Ricans are American citizens by birth and are subject to most American federal laws, they cannot vote in presidential elections, and they do not have voting representation in Congress, since Puerto Rico is neither an independent country nor a state. So this is another form where they are citizens, still they do not have voting rights. So the impacts can be seen in different ways in different nations, even today. So although the UN took the step to safeguard the protection of peoples of non-self-governing territories, intrinsic rights, we need to ensure that we keep the governments of the administrating power accountable to ensure that people who live in these territories are not deprived of the rights to the lands, lifestyle, and all resources their land offers. It is important to keep governing powers accountable to allow for this. It secures resources of the region. It is important to be informed about the future development of natural resources in the territories. It is also important to seek the administering powers take steps to protect their natural resources, especially land. It is important to reflect on the past, such as reason for the emergence of non-self-governing territories and the current conditions of the people in these territories. Only by reflecting on the past do we ensure we don't repeat the same mistakes. Today is also commemorated as Global Africa on May 25th, the annual commemoration of the creation of Organization of an African Unity, formerly known as African Freedom Day and African Liberation. It is a day for Africans and those who love Africa to show the world that the continent is a force to be reckoned. And with that, the moment has come for African youngsters to define the Africa they want on their terms, following centuries of being referred to in a negative and degrading manner. We'll resume in a minute. In Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, on May 25th, 1963, the leaders of 30 of Africa's 32 sovereign republics signed a founding charter. The OAU was established to assist numerous African countries in achieving transformation, freedom, and independence. The African Economic Community was founded by the OAU in 1991, and the African Union was established by the OAU in 2002. A total of 21 countries have joined the OAU since its inception. On May 23, 1994, South Africa joined as the 53rd member. African Liberation Day of African Freedom was observed in Ethiopia, South Africa, and Ghana on April 15, 1958, following the first conference of the independent African states. In Ghana, African Unity Day replaced this day in 1963. Despite being renamed the African Union, the name and date of Africa Day has been preserved, and African Day serves as an opportunity to honor Africa's people and governments. Africa has a wide range of languages except for Ethiopia. Every African country has one of the following official languages, that is English, Portuguese, French, or Arabic. Apart from Ethiopia and Liberia, Europe colonized every country in Africa. After the colonized obtained independence, One of their official languages remained the colonizers. Liberia had previously adopted English as its official language after being founded by the African American settlers in 1847. That's why today, even why English is so popular, because all the colonized countries across the world, they adapted English because they have been the rulers, have been the Britishers or the Americans or the French or the Portuguese or some other, mostly where English was the official language. That's why we see now English is so popular, so famous across the world. So that's why the rulers, they enforced, whoever has ruled, whatever region, they enforced they compelled, they forced their culture, their language, their traditions, their rules and regulations, acts on those people. And it is still evident, we can see, observe in all the colonized nations in one way, in one form or the other. Ethiopia was never colonized despite being briefly occupied by Italy before World War II. Today is also commemorated as International Skin Pigmentation Day, which is observed on May 25th. Every year, aims to increase global awareness of the importance of avoiding and treating this disorder. Uneven skin pigmentation, also known as hyperpigmentation, is a frequent skin problem. Dark spots, also known as age spots or sunspots, or dark patches of skin, emerge often on the face, hands, and other regions of the body that are exposed to sun on a regular basis. Sun exposure, medications, and hormonal changes are the most common causes of dark patches. The term hyperpigmentation refers to patches of skin that have uneven pigmentation, or the group of these patches. Hyperpigmentation causes the skin to seem uneven by appearing as darkening patches or blotches. Hyperpigmentation is at the root of skin diseases such as post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation and melasma, and the spots are referred to as age spots or sunspots. This skin disorder has three common types: pigment spots, melasma, and post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Such exposure causes pigment spots like age spots, sometimes referred to as sunspots. As a result, they are most commonly found on exposed body regions such as neck, face, décolleté, arms, and hands. Small darker spots on the skin are common. Melasma, also known as chloasma, is a disorder in which bigger spots of hyperpigmentation appear on the face. Melasma affects both men and women. However, it is more frequent in women, and it is considered to be driven by hormonal fluctuations. Melasma, also known as the mask of pregnancy, affects 10 to 15% of pregnant women and 10 to 25% of women who use oral contraceptives. When a skin lesion or trauma heals, a flat patch of discoloration remains. This is known as the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. It is a frequent among acne patients, and it is also a side effect of cosmetic operations like dermabrasion, laser therapy, and chemical peels. So the oldest literary mention of a skin pigmentation, most likely vitiligo, is published around 22,000 BC. The first record of skin pigmentation The cause of skin pigmentation is discovered, which is melanocytes in 19th century. Sunscreen is invented by cosmetics company L'Oreal in 1936 in the West. Of course, we Indians have our own traditional ways to prevent from, burns, heat burns, and so on. Actually, the sandalwood and the turmeric, which used to be applied on bodies, was very much effective for all these kind of skin problems. And also, they have cosmetic advantages as well. And in India especially, we are used to all kinds of weather conditions, especially the rural areas where majority of people live. And they are exposed to all kinds of areas. When we are not exposed, especially in urban areas, or where people live most of the time indoors, or where people most live in air-conditioned rooms, where round the year they are in more or less the same environments, similar environments or similar temperatures, they cannot survive outside in natural world. They face a lot of issues because they are not used to in the very first place. So they will face more problems than others who are already predisposed or exposed to such extreme and other climatic variations. The epidermal melanin unit is introduced along with the description of the melanosomes, ultrastructure, and melanosome transfer in 1960. There are many treatments for pigmentation that can remove existing pigmentation, but they may not be a permanent cure. To keep pigmentation away from the long term, you will need regular skin maintenance so that, again, the skin, because continues to be pigmented, you have to prevent that. You have to treat that so that there is no further pigmentation that is happening. And soy products, black beans, flaxseed, and chickpeas are some of the foods that contain hormones that may cause skin pigmentation. Apart from that, we have other foods, like we already mentioned, soy products, black beans, flaxseed, chickpeas. These are also easily available. And milk, buttermilk, sour milk have all been shown to effectively lighten skin discoloration thanks to the ingredient. What is that? Lactic acid. These are commonly, which are part of our diets. That's why we don't get this rarely unless there is a genetic predisposition or due to interaction of genetics and environment, epigenetics. So skin pigmentation is nothing serious, but people are not aware of how to protect their skin from it. The skin condition can manifest due to not just hormonal changes, but also prolonged exposure to the sun without use of any protection. Although skin pigmentation is very common, people still feel targeted and body shamed because of it. One way to shut down the haters is to accept our skin as it is and feel proud of it. What's wrong in it? Then you will not feel any stress or pressure. We are what we are. And what's wrong in accepting that? When we accept what we are, how we are, and that's there the issue ends. Although skin pigmentation is very common. Still, many, in spite of much of awareness, still people have stigma or taboo related to that. So it is more common than you think. Hypopigmentation affects 1 in 3 women around the world. See how common it is. And be careful of sun exposure. See, it doesn't mean, you should not at all expose to sun. Vitamin D is also very important. But not in extreme temperatures. See, that's why, mornings and evenings are right time to get lot of vitamin D from sun, lot of energy. That's why, in Sanatana Dharma or Hindu religion and customs, there have been lot of Surya Namaskar or Sandhya Vandana that is performed as an expression to the gratitude to the sun god, to the sun who gives us the heat, light, and energy without which we cannot survive. So it's an offering. What most we can offer, a tumbler of water, that is available abundantly, right? And everyone can offer. And with or without physical exercise or, the ritual, that is Surya Namaskar, with or without mantras. So everyone, irrespective of one's religion, you can follow it. You can do Surya Namaskar with mantra, without mantra, or even offer gratitude, that is Argya, to the sun god. That also gives us exposure to the sun god in the morning and evening, that is dawn and dusk. That is where the intensity of sun rays are less. That's where the body can absorb more vitamin D. When there are extreme temperatures, like after dawn or dusk, either there is no sun or there is high temperatures, which when exposed to prolonged time, it will burn the skin and it will cause skin pigmentation. So all our ancient traditions and practices are perfect science. But unfortunately, there is no one who is reading. Unfortunately, there is no one who is trying. No one doesn't mean no one, but comparatively, the number. So there are very less people who are studying, who are reading them, who are learning them, who are knowing them. And from that, there are again very less people where they are disseminating that knowledge. And among that, very few people attend such discourses. So they are not aware, because the entire knowledge is lost, because most of these traditions come in the form of festivals, in the form of celebrations. Nowadays, unfortunately, many of these celebrations have become more or less a holidays. A festival means holiday. What to do on festival? Go to movie, go to picnic, or go to some holiday spot. That is not actually intended festival or a celebration. Every festival, every celebration, every ritual, there is a lot of involvement of physical activity, psychological activity, social activity, emotional activity, which brings together the family members, not only just biological, but also who share the family bond, who become our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and relatives. as part of the interaction, as part of the socialization, and our family, community, neighborhoods, they provide a lot of opportunity, economic opportunity for the tradesmen, artisans, because we need a lot of ingredients, especially. A huge feast is organized not only for the entire family, but also to the neighborhood. So a lot of ingredients are required as part of celebrations. And we do a lot of rituals. As part of that, we need ingredients, which has to be procured from natural sources and artificial sources, mostly preferred by natural sources. So many people, especially tribals, rural, rural population, they collect, they grow it, and they send it to urban places, not only in rural places, but also to urban places where we buy them, procure them, and use it in the ritual. See how much economic activity is happening. But unfortunately, the trend is changing. We are not celebrating festivals as they are intended. Because of that, many artisans, they are losing their indigenous cultures, art forms, traditions, because they are not getting enough earning. Generally, festivals, see, every festival, we see some unique art forms which are associated. And that is the only opportunity, because they are entirely dependent on them, dedicated on them, and committed to them. For the entire year, they have to survive only on that festival. Again, till that festival comes next year, he cannot earn, or he cannot showcase his art form or her art form. So that's why we should not think that why we are wasting organizing melas, jataras, shows, cultural shows, and all, or art, galleries and so on. Because many times we fail to understand that this is an opportunity for their livelihood for the entire year. So that's why festivals also honor many people, especially artisans, artists, dancers, and various people who are engaged in art forms, dance, and so many activities which are unique for the festival or for the celebrations. We honor them, we acknowledge them, we appreciate them, we recognize them, so that it continues. And we also provide additional support for them. Now, it is our duty, because it is our nation, our state, or our place, and such traditions are unique. And it is our responsibility, as our elders, ancestors have given that rich cultures and traditions to us. It is our responsibility to give it to the future generations, to the upcoming generations. But unfortunately, most of them are lost, because we are not giving much importance to them. We ourselves don't know. Most of the things are lost in the process, and we are not practicing. Whenever the festival comes, we hardly engage in all kinds of rituals. It's a very good physical exercise. It's a very good mental exercise. It's a very good emotional exercise. It's a very good socialization process. So all we are getting away, and we are buying everything from outside. Again, we lack that kind of purity, when we call that kind of dedication that kind of, at least on that day, to invest time in cooking. Nowadays, people also lost the habit of cooking, are losing at least, though the percentage is less, but in future, we'll see a lot of population who don't know how to cook also, including both the genders, including the third genders or upcoming genders also. See, cooking preparation is not gender specific. No, everyone should know how to prepare food because we all consume food irrespective of any gender. So that's why it doesn't matter. If we want to have tasty, healthy, delicious food, we should know how to prepare. Otherwise, where will we get? How we will get? There should be someone who knows about, who prepares for us. So that's why community kitchens concept, especially when festivals come, before only all the families or the neighborhood, in the neighborhood, or especially that's why, people also come together from various places, families gather so that they all can contribute to the efforts. So one person or a couple of persons cannot do so many things. So generally in festivals we see family members, everyone gather and contribute and prepare a lot of savory sweets and lot of dishes. And while going, they also take, divide, and they share it so that as an individual, they may not be able to make, but when they come together, they can make for everyone and they can distribute it. So in that way, it is not only just beneficial for them, but also to their entire extended families and also to their friends. And also there is a habit of sharing in the neighborhood. Every festival you see sharing of savories, sweets, and other, and also offering feasts. So we share not only just food items, but also various other items, distribution, free distribution of clothes and various other materials also, ingredients also. So that's why these traditions, it is our responsibility. There are certain traditions or certain practices become absolute due to technology availability or due to, availability of appliances. So those, because of certain things, some rituals or some activities may become no longer valid, or there might be a better alternative or an effective process where we can get the task done. Like instead of manually grinding, we can use mixers or grinders to grind the same thing with less efforts, less time, still with a compromise of taste and various other aspects. So it doesn't mean that manual is not good or no longer good. It is also help. It is a good exercise. Otherwise, nowadays people are just operating everything from remote and becoming lazier. And because of lack of enough physical activity, people are falling prey to lifestyle diseases and disorders. Now you can see every household has hypertension, diabetes, cancer, and whatnot. Almost you pick any family, you will find at least one person. And especially you pick one teenage or children, one person. Why? Because lack of physical activity and consumption of more fatty foods and junk foods. and lack of proper balanced diet, consumption of balanced diet, because of selective intake of food materials, which does not provide the required micronutrients and macronutrients. So that's why we need to understand the science behind it. I'm not saying you blindly accept it, but at the same time, don't blindly reject it because it belongs to certain religion, or it has been associated with certain religion or affiliated with some religion, which is not yours, or for that matter, which is, even if it is religious or spiritual, or even if it is non-religious or non-spiritual, doesn't matter. As long as, because the oldest religions, or even before religionless society, the traditions have been coming. And some become absolute due to, as I have mentioned an example, like a lot of disinfectants has come now. So the earlier tradition of sprinkling the dung, especially cattle dung, around the home to keep insects and all away, might not be applicable in urban areas or even in rural areas where they have all these floors which are laid by stone or granite or some marble. And we have disinfectants. Otherwise, in earlier days, it was, even the floor was laid by mud and, these stones and all, natural stones. So there is every possibility of, bacteria, virus and all being accumulated as part of general process. Now, everywhere it is there, even when we are talking. We are inhaling bacteria, virus, and we are through mouth and as well as nose. So bacteria is everywhere, virus is everywhere, both harmful and harmless. So there, at that time, there was no chemical ingredients. So they used whatever natural ingredients were there. So they used to put these, and they used to sprinkle all around the home so that they are protected. Now, maybe because of all these Lysol and all chemical disinfectants, so now that may not be relevant in places where there are other options. It doesn't mean that is not a valid, or we can't just, say that those are unscientific and all. They were scientific. They are still scientific, where you don't have option. You can't take in the forest. That is what happening, in the picnic spots, in the forest. You go for a camping and spray all chemicals there, and the biodiversity is lost there. So you spray all the chemicals and the natural habitat is destroyed there. The microorganisms get destroyed, the insects get destroyed. There is a loss of biodiversity there. You should not do that. You should do what you have to do. Again, there you have to go to the ancient traditional practices only. Otherwise, you are not only creating a threat to the existing biodiversity, but you are also polluting. You are changing there. That is still relevant. So that's why we need to understand in the very first place why these traditions, practices have come and what is the use of them. What is the science behind? So whenever there is an alternative with the advent of technology or with the advent of science, so we can go with them, but always have a side effects that are not sustainable. That is only the problem. The modern science, there is no sustainability at all. All destructive, degenerative, disastrous effects we are seeing with the modern science, because they always think of short-term benefits. They never think of long-term benefits. That's why this problem is coming, where we are facing today. We want to exploit everything now. We are not worried about future. We are not thinking of future. If we consume all the plants and animals on the planet today itself, what we'll eat tomorrow? Right? What our children will eat, what our grandchildren will eat and enjoy. If we consume everything, so that is what modern science is exploiting. Modern businesses are exploiting. Use whatever is available. Generate as much as plastic. And today, entire world is filled with plastic debris and pollution. And entire environment, biodiversity is getting affected. You cannot clean. It's very easy to pollute. But it's not that easy. It will take decades together, centuries together to clean. And how much time, money, resources are required. Polluting a river is easy. But regenerating a river, just imagine how much time it will take, how much effort is required, how much resources are required. We should understand all these impacts, otherwise we still continue to do so. So damage may take time to appear, or we may take some time to understand what we have done, but it will be too late to redo what we have done. Like now, this decade is known as decade of restoration. It is already we have done whatever we should not do. And beyond this, if we don't take all the necessary actions, precautions, then the next we are going to go beyond the restoration. That is, it will go out of our hands. And the only way left is to suffer, to pay and suffer, to pay and suffer. And we are going to pay a hefty price. So why we are talking about all these things is following traditional, ancient knowledge systems that will give you a lot of information. Just don't neglect or reject saying that it is not those days, it is not relevant. All are relevant if you are able to comprehend, understand. So we are talking in relevance of even skin pigmentation. A lot of natural, herbal, organic remedies are available. Even your skin might already be damaged by the sun or other factors, even though signs are not visible to you sometimes. The pigmentation takes time to show up on the surface. So internally, the damage has been caused. Like most of the time, we don't see the damage that is being caused across the world. A lot of species, as I was telling. We are just talking about species that we have observed, recorded, and we are telling that they are getting distinct, endangered, and they have become extinct because we no longer see them. But what about the larger part of the species, which we never have seen them? And we don't know whether they have become extinct or endangered. So that's why what we know is just a drop of ocean. There is an entire ocean to be explored. What we know is just a drop. No one knows more than just a drop of ocean. There is so much to be explored. And with that, just one drop of knowledge, we are generalizing the entire planet. That is where we are going wrong. That is where we are creating blunders, doing blunders, and creating disasters in this world. So it is an opportunity for awareness to break stereotypes, to make everyone feel secure, and to bring on changes. So with this, we shall end the commemorations for the day. Thank you everyone for being part of this today's commemorations. So we request everyone to quickly fill the feedback form, which is being shared in the form of polls before you leave the platform. So the feedback form has been launched. So before you leave, you can fill the feedback form, and we appreciate and express our gratitude to all the participants today for being part of this international webinar series. See you all tomorrow at the same time, 6 o'clock, with the same joining link with different commemorations. And we are going to have an international seminar on occasion of World Tobacco Day on 28th of May. So we request everyone, whoever is interested to make presentations, can register and attend and make presentations by completing the formalities. So we request everyone to complete formalities in time so that we can complete the rest from our side. And there will be a delay as we all are preoccupied with other activities. So there will be a delay. For the next 10 to 15 days. So kindly bear with us. But it all depends on, how quickly, promptly you all complete your formalities. We'll also try our best so that the less work we are doing, the more effective organized work we all do together will help us in reducing the work so we can do more work. So that's why I keep completing the formalities as and when they are available. So we'll be updating today or tomorrow the World Tobacco Day commemoration event. So anyone interested, we can present on pollution, tobacco pollution, and tobacco health hazards or cancer-related presentations, or tobacco and its impact on environment or economy, on health. There are various topics. So you can choose appropriate topics and you can make presentation. So formalities are more or same. So you can register and make presentation or even attend. So see you all tomorrow. Take care. Good night.